Maharaja Parikshit inquired, Kim what? Tat anghaha, that offense. Bhagavata, and to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vajanyahai, by the royal family. Ajitta Atmavihi, who could not control their senses and were thus degraded. Kritam, which had been done. Yena, by which. Kulam, the dynasty. Nashtam, was annihilated. Kshatriyanam, of the royal family. Abhikshnashaha, again and again. It's a translation. King Parikshit inquired from Shukadeva Goswami, what was the offense that the Kshatriyas who could not control their senses committed before Lord Parashuram, the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for which the Lord annihilated the Kshatriya dynasty again and again. She can repeat. King Parikshit inquired from Shukadeva Goswami, what was the offense that the Kshatriyas who could not control their senses committed before Lord Parashuram, the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for which the Lord annihilated the Kshatriya dynasty again and again. So there's no purport to this text or the next few texts. They're very short purports, and we'll keep reading until we get to a sizable purport. So text 17 to 19. Shri Balarayani Anuvacha Oivayanam Avipatir Arjuna Kshatriya Shabaha Tatam Narayanam Sham Sham Aradya Parikarma Viki Bahundasha Shatam Leve Adur Darshatvam Aratishu Avyahatendri Yaljashri Tejavirya Yashovalam Yugeshwaratvam Naishvaryam Gunayatrani Madayaha Charavyahata Gatir Lokeshu Pavano Yata. Shukadeva Goswami said, the best of the Kshatriyas, Kartavira Arjuna, the king of the Vaihayas, received 1,000 arms by worshipping Dattatreya, the plenary expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan. He also became undefeatable by enemies and received unobstructed sensory power, beauty, influence, strength, fame, and a mystic power for which to achieve all the perfections of yoga, such as Onima and Laghima. Thus, having become fully opulent, he roamed all over the universe without opposition, just like the wind. So text 20. Stri Ratnaravrata Kridan Rivambasi Madokataha Vaijayantim Shajam Vibrad Guruto Saritang Bujahai. Once while enjoying in the water of the river Narmada, the puffed up Kartavira Arjuna, surrounded by beautiful women and garlanded with a garland of victory, stopped the flow of the water with his arms. Viplavatam swa Shipra Ibram Yati Shruta Sarish Jalahai Namrishyat Tasyatat Viryam Viramhani Dushananaha. Because Kartavira Arjuna made the water flow in the opposite direction, the camp of Ravana, which was set up on the bank of the Narmada near the city of Mahishmati, was inundated. This was unbearable to the 10-headed Ravana, who considered himself a great hero and could not tolerate Kartavira Arjuna's power. So Srila Prabhupada explains in his purport, the Ravana was out touring to gain victory over all other countries, Digvijaya, and he had camped on the bank of the Narmada River near the city of Mahishmati. A very short purport, so we'll go on. Grihito lilaya strinam samaksham kritakil vishaha mahishmatyam saniruto mukto yena kapiryata. When Ravana attempted to insult Kartavira Arjuna in the presence of the women and thus offended him, Kartavira Arjuna easily arrested Ravana and put him in custody in the city of Mahishmati, just as one captures a monkey and then releases him negligently. Poor Ravana. So text 23, Sekaratum Ragayam Vicharam Vichane Vane Yadrichayashama Padam Jamadad Upavishat. Once, while Kartavira Arjuna was wandering unengaged in a solitary forest and hunting, he approached the residence of Jamadagni. Prabhupada explains that Kartavira Arjuna had no business going to the residence of Jamadagni, but because he was puffed up by his extraordinary power, he went there and offended Parashuram. This was the prelude of his being killed by Parashuram for his offensive act. Short purport again. And just the next text we'll read and then comment on the purport. Text 24. Tasmai sanara devaya munir arhanam aharat sasainyamachavahaya avishmatyatapo nanaha. The sage Jamadagni, who was engaged in great austerities in the forest, received the king very well, along with the king's soldiers, ministers, and carriers. He supplied all the necessities to worship these guests, for he possessed a Kamadhenu cow that was able to supply everything. So purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Brahma Samhita informs us that the spiritual world, and especially the planet Goloka Vrindavan, where Krishna lives, is full of Surabhi cows. Surabhir Adi Palayam Tam. The Surabhi cow is also called Kamadhenu. Although Jamadagni possessed only one Kamadhenu, he was able to get from it everything desirable. Thus he was able to receive the king, along with the king's great number of followers, ministers, soldiers, animals, and palanquin carriers. When we speak of a king, we understand that he is accompanied by many followers. Jamadagni was able to receive all the king's followers properly and feed them sumptuously with food prepared in ghee. The king, not oil. The king was astonished at how opulent Jamadagni was because of possessing only one cow, and therefore he became envious of the great sage. This is the beginning of his offense. Parashuram, the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, killed Kartavira Arjuna because Kartavira Arjuna was too proud. One may possess unusual opulence in this material world, but if one becomes puffed up and acts whimsically, he will be punished by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the lesson to learn from this history, in which Parashuram became angry at Kartavira Arjuna and killed him and rid the entire world of Kshatriyas 21 times. Okay, so Om Ganat Sivanadasha Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshu many times. So what I wanted to talk about today was this principle of being puffed up when one gets opulences. Of course, Queen Kunti does touch upon this in her prayers. Janma Ishvarya Shukasha Shibir Egamana Dalpaman, she says, that one becomes proud because of good birth or supposed good birth. Just like I know in the family that I was born into, nice Gujarati family. No, anyway, I was born in a family, and I was always told, we're the chosen people. Because, anyway, we'll mention what family or what religion it was, but I guess you can guess at it. We're the chosen people. So it's like, so I became very proud. Janma Aishvarya, in the opulence, wealth. Shrutasha, learning. And Shribir, bodily beauty. I mean, for example, let's give Shrutasha, talk about that a little bit. Like learning. If one has too much learning, like Prabhupada sometimes would write to devotees who were studying Sanskrit, and he said, don't study Sanskrit. Just study it in his books. And the reason is that most of the people who studied Sanskrit fell down because they began to think that they were more intelligent than Prabhupada. And then they fell down. 98% of people studied Sanskrit and Bengali fell down. And then, Shribir, beauty. Just like, I always give this example of one of our Sankirtan devotees. He was doing Sankirtan in the Miami airport. And he was quite a handsome young man. He was actually Panchagota. Some of you may know Panchagota. And one of the ladies who was distributing books came up to him and said, I've never seen someone so handsome as you. And that night, I had to deprogram him. Because he'd become so, overwhelmed with, wow, she said that to me. Like that. Anyway, so these are problems. So in this light, I'd like to tell us an interesting story from the Mahabharata that illustrates this point to a superlative degree. So here's the story. Once upon a time, as all stories go, Indra, actually we can start this with Indra's problem, and then we'll go to someone else's problem. Indra had a problem because the demons were able to conquer over him. And the reason for that is because he had become proud, being Indra. He was sitting on his throne, and his wife, Sachi, not Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mother, but a different lady, and she was extremely attractive. She was sitting next to him in the assembly of the demigods, and what happened? His spiritual master walked in and didn't even say, hi, Guru Maharaj. He just appreciated. Everybody was praising him. He appreciated it very much. And then his spiritual master, Brahaspati, just walked out the door. And he couldn't find Brahaspati, and because of that, the demons became more powerful. Then Indra had to go through this whole thing. Of course, that's very similar to the story of Ramaharshi Masuta, who became very proud being on the Vyasa-san. And then Balaram walked in, and he didn't get up to receive Balaram, and Balaram killed him. So anyway, so in this particular story, Indra had to find another spiritual master, and that was Visvarup. And he got upset with that guru after some time, and he killed his guru. And Visvarup's father, Twasta, created this demon to kill Indra, and he mispronounced the mantra and actually became the demon who Indra was the enemy of. And the demon happened to be a devotee, because the demon was an incarnation of Chitraketu. I think you all remember that story, right? So anyway, so then after Indra killed Ritrasura, who was the demon incarnation of Chitraketu, who was actually a great devotee, everyone was relieved in the whole universe. But Indra was not relieved because what? He had committed an offense against the Vaishnava. So he had to take shelter in the waters in the Manasarovara. And that was all right. I mean, he was simple. So that's one story of being proud, the results of being proud. But here's the even more intense story. So when he left the kingdom of heaven, then there was no one to take over. So everything became really, let's see, topsy-turvy. And, there has to be an administrator, there has to be a president of the temple. Actually, this is a good lesson for presidents of temples. So anyway, so he was, there was no one. And things were really topsy-turvy in the whole universe because he administrates. That means he manages all the different demigods. Hey, you Vayu, you go here and give some wind to this guy. Or you Agni, there's a fireside rites going on in the Hare Krishna temple, so go there. So, he's like the coordinator, administrator. So there was no one. So there was a king who had just recently come up, a newbie. And his name was Nahusha. And they said, Nahusha, you should take over Indra's position. Because I guess a newbie doesn't know how difficult it is. Anyway. It's funny how big a headache it is. So he took over Indra's, he didn't immediately take over Indra's position. He said, no, I'm not going to do it. It's just too difficult. And so all the demigods and sages, they came to him and they said, we will empower you. We will give you all of our potency so that no one can defeat you. So they all just like zap. They zapped him or whatever. They zapped him with all this potency. So he just became more powerful than the previous Indra. And just like, really, nobody could defeat him because he got 100% of everybody's potency. So then what happened? This is a story of the Mahabharata, really interesting about someone getting proud. First it was Indra, but now we're going to know about Nahusha. So Nahusha became very, very proud. And he just began, because if you're being Indra, it's not only that you got a job, you got to administrate, but everyone has to listen to you, except for Lord Brahma and Vishnu and Lord Shiva. That'd be pretty good if only 3 people don't listen to you. Everybody else is under your control. Wow. Sounds nice. So anyway, so he was, so he started to enjoy with the Apsaras and go, this is the life. I am powerful. Nobody can defeat me. And as a result, he even had like Narada Muni coming and offering obeisances to him, and actually everybody was offering obeisances to him. But what happened? Things were going all right. He still was doing his service as temple as president of the universe. So anyway, so what happened is that one day, as he was doing his service, he became very proud. He happened to see Indra's wife, Sachi. Remember, Indra was taking shelter in the Manasarovar, so he was nowhere to be found. So he saw Indra's wife, Sachi, and he said, she's mine. Because everything is mine. And the other demigods said, hey, cool it me, oh boy. And he said, there's nothing wrong with this. Look at Indra. Look at what he did. He went after Ahalya. And if he could do that, I can go after his wife. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. He was really proud of this particular point. And so he said to the other demigods, hand over Sachi, because I'm more powerful, I can do anything I want. So Sachi got really upset, of course, because she's one of the most chaste ladies in creation. And so then she went running to Brahaspati. Brahaspati said, I'm going to give you shelter. Don't fear. But the other demigod said, Brahaspati, you got to turn her over because he's going to destroy everything. And Brahaspati said, look, here's a plan. He didn't know the whole plan at that particular point, how to defeat Nahusha. He said, the first part of the plan is she should give him some hope that she's interested in him. And she said, really, I like you, but I have to see if my husband's going to come back first. So Sachi followed Brahaspati's instruction because Brahaspati said, I'm going to give you shelter. You don't have to worry about Nahusha. Sachi went to Nahusha and said, really, I'm in love with you. But, just to do things honestly, dharmically. Let me just give one last try to find my husband. So he agreed to that. So what happened in the meantime was that Lord Vishnu gave him a plan. He said Indra should perform a horse sacrifice and then he could be reinstated. But the demigods went to look for Indra. And they went everywhere to look for Indra. Sachi said she wanted to find Indra. And they found him in the Mount of Sarovara. But Indra was able to distribute his sinful reactions. This is in Bhagavatam. Part of this story is in Bhagavatam. To different entities like the water, the earth, you ladies, anyway. Not going to tell about that. He was able to distribute his sinful activities. But when he came out and he saw from the corner of his eye as he went back to the heaven that Nahusha had become so powerful, he just headed for the hills again. He ran away because he understood he couldn't defeat Nahusha because Nahusha had all the powers given to him by all the sages and demigods. So it was a problem. So Sachi became very, very miserable, and she had a dream after praying to the goddess of divination. That means being able to understand things divine, not divine in terms of like something exalted, but to understand things psychically. Okay. So then it was revealed where Indra was to her. She had a dream, and Sachi, she was told by Indra in the dream, here's the plan, how Nahusha can be defeated. Go to see Nahusha and tell him you couldn't find your husband, you want to meet with him, but he has to come in the proper vehicle to see you. Now, what was that proper vehicle? It wasn't a Lexus or a Tesla. It wasn't Indra's vehicle either. And it wasn't Brahma's vehicle. Actually, some of the demigods have vehicles. There's a rat. It's Ganesh. Ganesh has a rat vehicle. But she said, you have to come on a vehicle, on a palanquin to see me that's carried by the Saptarishis. And he was so proud. Saptarishis means the 7 great sages, like Agastya Muni, Vashishta Muni, like that. So he was so proud that he agreed on it. He said, sure, they're my servants. They're supposed to carry my palanquin, no problem. So Sachi was really concerned about this. Now he's going to come to see me. Brahaspati said, don't worry about this. His destruction is very near. So what happened is that he was riding on this palanquin carried by the Saptarishis, and they stopped for some time to have a discussion. And they were having a discussion about the Vedic literatures. They were saying all the Vedic literatures are pure, and he said, yeah, it's all nonsense. And they said, that's nonsense, king. I mean, obviously, they have to chastise him. That's nonsense, Nahusha. And so Nahusha got so angry, he kicked Agastya Muni with his foot. And then Agastya Muni cursed him to take the form of a giant serpent for 10,000 years. So he fell down, and in the meantime, Indra had a fire sacrifice. Indra became very powerful again, took over, and he and Sachi lived happily ever after. So the moral of the story, let's tell the moral of the story. The moral of the story is that when you get power like that, it goes to your head. Oh, look, there's actually more of the story. So he became a serpent, and he was a serpent on the earth. And he got the benediction being a serpent, because he was still pretty proud serpent, that whoever he captured, he would sort of like absorb their strength. Remember how he absorb the strength of the demigods and the sages of the heavenly planets. So he would absorb their strength, and they could never get out of his clutches as he wrapped himself around, like a boa constrictor. So what happened is that 10,000 years later, fast forward, Bhima was there, and Bhima saw that serpent, and Bhima was captured by the serpent. And the serpent was getting ready to kill Bhima. And would have killed Bhima because he absorbed all of Bhima's strength. Pretty good, isn't it? Nice story. And then what happened is that Yudhisthira came in the nick of time, as he does, and he had a philosophical discussion with the serpent. And he gave the serpent his mercy. And because of the mercy of Yudhisthira Maharaj, the serpent became liberated, became Nahushri, went back to the heavenly planets, and he apologized to everybody, and they all had a nice time after that. So he learned his lesson. So you actually see this occurring in many, many different instances where people have some power or potency and they offend Vaishnavas or try to offend a chaste lady, and then they fall down from their position. Another story from the Bhagavatam that illustrates this is the story of Shobhari Muni. Shobhari Muni was a great sage. He could meditate underwater in the Jamuna River. And as he was meditating underwater in the Jamuna River, he developed friendships with some of the fishes. I know it's fish. I know fishies is not a word. I know that much English. But I'm being a little childish. But so he developed friendship with some of the fish. And then he noticed that some of the fish were being threatened and eaten by Garuda, the bird carrier of Vishnu. So he didn't consider, no, this is the great Garuda. He thought, I'm a great sage. I am so powerful I can meditate underwater. And so what he did is he cursed Garuda. If you ever come here again, you're going to die. And Garuda, respecting the curse of the sage, said, okay, Hare Krishna, there's plenty of other fish in other places. So he didn't come there. And Shobhari Muni, because of that offense, he just saw fish, and it made him lusty. There's two versions of the story. One version is he just saw the fish having babies. How one becomes lusty, see, fish having babies. I mean, it's just like, fish pornography. I mean, it's just unbelievable. You have a picture of fish having babies, and then the police arrest you for it, Or another story, Prabhupada tells the story two ways. He saw the fish having children, or whatever. And then another story is that some of the fish rubbed him, in his private parts, and he became agitated. So, I mean, that. I've never seen a scuba diver have that problem. So he jumps out of the water, from being an austere rishi. He jumps out of the water, runs to the king, and says, let me marry one of your daughters. With bated breath. Okay. Old guy, completely wrinkled from being in the bathtub, the water. Hundreds of years. With seaweed hanging out. Come on. This shows what happens when you're offended by something. Imagine if you have a daughter, someone comes to your house with seaweed, and wrinkles all over his face. An argument, and the king was thinking, I don't want to offend this sage. So what do I do? So the king came out with a win-win. He said, all right, if any of the girls want to marry you, they can marry you. So he thinks, this is a trick. And then he uses mystic power, which I wish I had. So he makes himself really young and handsome and guapo, right? That's Spanish for, like really good looking. He makes himself young and good looking, and he goes to the ladies' ashram. He says, girls, who wants to marry? And the girls, there's 50 of them, of course. They say, he's mine, he's mine. And so they all get married. And after, many years of living, being yelled at by his wives. Anyway, so, sugar and spice and everything nice. So anyway, so after many years of, God knows how he had, I guess he used mystic powers to maintain them. He didn't have to get a job. But still, he got nagged, I guess. Even Krishna gets nagged. I mean, Satyabhama was nagging Richard. You got that Parashata flower for Rukmini. Hey, what about me? Don't you love me? Even Krishna is subjected to it. So this poor guy had 50 wives. Of course, Krishna was 16,108. But, he divided himself. It wasn't that he was bombarded with all of them simultaneously. Of course, Shobhini Muni divided himself up too, but it was more or less like television expansions, not like Krishna's expansions that are different, each and every one different. So, anyway, so after a few years of all this bliss, he says to his wife, I think we should get renounced. And his wife's being chased. They were actually chased. They all went to the forest, getting renounced. And they did go back to Godhead, but after he didn't lose the effects of his previous devotional service, but because the offenses, it was put on hold for some time. And then he and his wives went back to home, back to Godhead. So that's another story of someone getting proud because of opulence. Of course, we already told the story of Romaharshi and Sutta. And the final story, one tells the story of Daksha. Daksha was also a king, King Daksha. And he was a Prajapati, and he was supposed to have a lot of children. He did have a lot of children. And he ran into problems in many ways. I mean, first problem was he had 10,000 children, told his children to execute austerities so they could become fathers. And those children were convinced by Narada Muni to take sannyas. And then he had 1,000 after that. And the same thing happened, and he cursed Narada Muni. I mean, that's an offense because of his pride. Then he decided just to have daughters, because daughters were not allowed to take sannyas. Ladies were not allowed to take sannyas, except for a few years ago in New Vrindavan. But that was mixed. So anyway, and then he had the problem being proud that he offended Lord Shiva. Now when he went in, this is a story we've read previously in Bhagavatam class, that he went in to the assembly, everyone rose because he was the head of the assembly, except Lord Shiva. And then he blasphemed Lord Shiva, and then ultimately he had to lose his head because of that. There's a story, there's a big fight, he lost his head, and basically he got an ass's head after that, donkey's head. And that was his offense. That was the offense. So the point is, and anyway, so getting back to actually I want to talk about ourselves, not me. But that can happen to us when we get a position. They say power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And we've actually seen this happen in ISKCON with people in different positions. Whether it's temple president, whether it's guru, whether it's the GBC. And we see so many fall downs. Like it's a very dangerous. So how to maintain our humility? That's actually what I'm getting to. In spite of all, well, first of all, keep association with devotees. Reveal your mind and confidence. Be ready to hear. Don't get angry when someone gives you good instructions. Even if someone who is not in the Krishna conscious movement and not even a devotee says something to you. Like let's say if I was out shopping and I got angry at a salesman or something like that, it says, boy, you don't get angry. I should take that as Krishna's instruction. So in other words, be ready to see Krishna everywhere and in everything. Yomam pashati sarvatra sarvam chamai pashati tashaham na pranashami sachamena pranashati, as Krishna says in the Gita, this is chapter, The one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me is never lost to me, nor is I never lost to him. And then another point is to hear regularly, to read regularly, hear regularly from Srila Prabhupada. And if you hear, then it just inspires you, and you actually are focused on something different, which is the bhakti, rather than something that is causing you pain, which is your false pride. And your Ishwaroham, Hambali, Siddhoham Bhagavan Sukhi, I'm the perfect, powerful, happy. So if you hear, you become joyful. And it doesn't matter whether you have power or not power. It doesn't really matter. It's just a service to Krishna. You identify yourself as Gopi Partha, Padakamala, Dasa, Dasana, Dasa. As a servant of a servant of a servant of the Lord, maintains the gopis in Vrindavan. And if you hear regularly, you'll always be thinking like that, rather than being prideful. Whoops. So, any questions or comments about this? Yes?
Yeah, all the powers that all these species get throughout the universe, no matter who you are, aren't they just natural stuff that we have up in the spiritual world? When we come here, it's taken away. So once in a while, we get a little gift.
Yeah.
But it's really natural stuff that we have from the beginning.
Well, in the spiritual world, everyone's just concentrated. Yeah, the pure devotee naturally has all the mystic powers. That's true. But in the spiritual world, people don't worry about that. It's just want to please Krishna.
Right.
Just want to please Krishna. I was hearing something interesting from Prabhupada this morning. Prabhupada was saying, yes, you can worship the demigods to serve Krishna. I mean, it was interesting. A devotee asked Prabhupada the question about worshiping Ganesh, which comes from the nectar of devotion. And Prabhupada said, yes, just like the gopis worshipped Katyayani to get Krishna as their husband. It can't be for anything material. It can be for something spiritual. So Prabhupada said that. It was really an interesting conversation. Prabhupada's conversations are really interesting. I generally try to listen to them as much as possible. I mean, I also was hearing Prabhupada yelling at Mr. Patel, who we walked with on the beach. And Prabhupada really blasted him for being a Mayavadi, and he was blasting all these people, like Dr. Radhakrishna and everything. It was just powerful. Prabhupada was so powerful, but he was humble. That combination was there. He was never proud. Okay, on that happy note, all glories to His divine grace. Srila Prabhupada ki